So I'm going to be making a video called The Wonderful Yet Broken Planet Earth. What I want to express is if you look at our world from an outside view, from space, looking down on it, you see what we can tell is a unique planet. You hear these things like we have humans called planet hunters. We have science fiction that is pervasive on our planet, that is everywhere, and it gives the impression that we know an awful lot about the planets that are in our galaxy. What a planet hunter does is they pick a sun, a star out there in the void, and they wait for things to interrupt the light coming from that star. When you get something that consistently interrupts the light, you've likely got a planet. We don't know as much as it seems some people assume we know. So let's forget about millions of other planets out there, alien life. Just for a minute, sit back and look at this planet. In our local area, it is certainly unique. It is beautiful. It is intricate. You can have a sandstorm on one continent that, by the very presence of there being a desert and weather conditions conducive to that sandstorm, on another continent, you have a rainforest that is fed by that sandstorm. Nutrients are formed on another continent because of a sandstorm. The intricate nature of how heat and light is reflected off of our planet, the intricate natures of various amazing species and how they interact with each other to form healthy environments. One thing our current system has given us is a ton of data on how these things work, how they are supposed to function properly, along with all the data we've got on how they're not functioning properly. But whether you believe this beautiful planet evolved to be what it is, or was created by a higher intelligence to be what it is, if it was evolved, it evolved to have these intricate, wondrous systems in place. If it was created by some being who intended there to be intricate interactions for a functional, healthy planet. That is the design, if designed. But there is a flaw. The highest order of natural not habitat, but ecosystem, the highest order of ecosystem, attained self-awareness. Now, whether it was evolved self-awareness or created self-awareness, in evolutionary terms, this would be a risky bet for a planet. In my parents' Bible's terms, it would be fallen world, the sentience of the highest order of ecosystem on our planet, us. The flaw in the planet is us. Now, this isn't a terrible problem to have. If you take the evolutionary term that I just whatever, a risky bet. As any gambler will tell you, risky bets have large rewards. We don't know what our possibilities are, what we are capable of if we function properly on our planet. And for you people out there who just cannot seem to get the idea of aliens out of your mind, let me tell you why an intelligent spacefaring alien species would not contact our planet. It's not because we don't have warp drive. It's not because we're not sufficiently advanced enough. It's because we're malfunctioning. Why? Okay, we've had thousands of movies, right? Hundreds of movies, dozens of movies, whatever it is, about things they would come to take. Water. One of the more simple molecules. If you can replicate your way across the space, pretty sure you can figure out how to get your own water. Unnecessary to take ours. Seems to be quite abundant out there. All right, that's enough about aliens. I am a sci-fi person. And that question has always bothered me. So, how is this not just an unsolvable problem? How can you have a planet where the highest order of ecosystem is malfunctioning this completely, fallen world, and have that not be a terrible world-ending problem? Well, it's the data we collected as a fallen species. It's the data we are now able to collect. We know and can understand how these ecosystems worked, how they can work better. We understand how they're being damaged. We understand the effects the damage of those ecosystems have on the rest of the planet. And we understand that by and large, we are the cause of it. All right, well, this is not entirely new information. It's probably not even a new way of saying the old information. Somebody out there has said this. Somebody out there is thinking this, if not millions of people out there saying and thinking these same things. And so many of them tell the rest of the world that population control is the only way. We just went through COVID-19, and I heard a lot of people spilling rhetoric like, well, if we have a mass die-off, it's only better for the planet, right? This is the same kind of thinking, and only a broken species or ecosystem or fallen world, whatever you want to call it, only something that broken can think of it that way, where great loss is the solution to a problem. Great loss in this problem only allows for the continuation on a longer scale of the problem that already exists. To solve the problem we have now by reducing population is not to solve the problem. It's to kick it down the road. It's to say, oh, that's just too tough. So much easier to do the selfish route. That's what mass die-off is. It's a selfish route because it's not going to be the people who cause the most damage dying off. All right. I don't want this to be a rant because I see a solution to this. I see hope. How do I see hope? What we need to fix this problem. I'm an American, USA. So when I was looking for a solution to this, I had to find a solution that makes sense to the environment I was raised in. So I found a capitalist answer to the problem. Mainly because I don't want the people in power. To solve this problem, you have to make an incredible number of shifts. The whole world is talking about green energy and recycling and being better stewards of the place in which we live. But nobody's got this big solution because all the solutions cost an incredible amount of money. All the solutions we have right now are too great to fully implement successfully. We have a lot of problems that are caused by the current system that are coming up, like the bill is coming due. In our country, in the United States, the power grid is a great example of this. In order to switch to green energy, the current power grid we have is not capable of making that switch. So we would need a new power grid, which makes green energy a very difficult solution. So what we need to do is make the biggest problem our best solution. The best commodity on this planet is energy. That's where the money is. That's the sweet spot. If you make your money off of energy, you're likely, well, not watching this video for one thing, but you're likely not really overly concerned with your day-to-day expenses. So how do you make energy the commodity, the solution to a broken ecosystem? How do you take something that is currently holding us back in terms of repairing our world? Because we need it. We need the energy. A politician now cannot say, you want green energy, you're going to have to go without heat for this winter while we work that problem out. It does not seem to be a viable option for us, politically speaking. So in order to solve this problem, we need to change the dynamic of energy. We need to go from powerful entities serving everybody else to everybody else serving powerful entities. I'm not saying we want to take their power. One thing that capitalism has shown us is that it is the fastest way to make advancements. It is the best way to have a powerful and sustainable military. It is the best way to keep regular general people like myself happy-ish. Can't ask for it. It's not a perfect world, remember. But I can go to the store and pick up all kinds of stuff I really don't need. But I can do it. And to give that option and then take it away, we're seeing that now in a supply chain crisis. It's not very popular. It's not going well. And traditionally, it hasn't gone well. Traditionally, it's been a very uncomfortable thing to experience. To have one day and then not have the next is one of the harder adaptations for our species to make. I would say the best way to solve this problem, because there are other problems this would impact too. There is an incredible gap between not just resource, not just wealth. Like, yes, there is a lot of wealthy, or there's a very few wealthy, and there's a lot of people who aren't wealthy. That gap is a problem, I agree, but it's also something that's necessary for progress. You can't give everybody resources, because not everybody. I am terrible with money. I am not a responsible person with money. To be honest, I don't really like money. Maybe that's because I'm bad with it. But if you were to make me wealthy, that does nothing for the planet. It does nothing for anybody but me. And from what we've seen with lottery winners, it doesn't even ensure that the person that becomes suddenly wealthy will be happy or have a longer, healthier life. From what we've seen with people who get suddenly rich, it's a shockingly bad idea. Whatever you believe of the people that could be held up as examples, we've got the data. It's not a good idea. It's not a proper use of wealth. Wealth is the product generated by humans using their physical energy, mental energy, physical energy. It is a product. Wealth is what we all make. The theory is people who are better with it will acquire more of it, and thus we get the trickle down effect. That's just not something we really see happening. It's a good theory, much like what I'm saying right now might just be that, a good theory, but in practice, when it comes to actual humans making it happen, it doesn't tend to be we aren't very successful at it. When we do things, we tend to, anyway, I don't want to rant about it. There is hope for this. What I would propose, is I would love to implement it, but I am not the person to implement it, so I'm going to give it out there. What I would propose is to start somewhere on the level of a United States county, a state county, or something similar. And instead of going the Industrial Revolution route where there's a field, let's throw some windmills at it, because that is not working. that is ridiculous. The amount of money or energy spent to build the windmills and the return you get from the windmills, it's not working out right. Just throwing them wherever we can, wherever space is available, valiant effort, but it's got two major problems. It's not sustainable, for one, and for two, it is widely open to ridicule from the opposition. We are doing something, we're trying to do a new thing, green energy, by using the process of the Industrial Revolution, which is what got us into the point where we needed to desperately find green energy. We can't use the same methods. What I would suggest is you take an area, something like a county of a state, and find ways, creative ways, to generate energy and only attract that industry which can be sustained by the energy generated locally. If you can provide enough energy in your area to fuel a town, a city, an industrial park, a manufacturer division, if it were me, I would start with plastics and I would start lobbying to change the way we do plastic. The way we do plastic now is way too haphazard. It's a recycler's nightmare. Most of what we use now is single-use plastic, and it's because they're all different. Everybody has their own chemical composition to it. There is nowhere near, and I know people are going to say regulations are bad for the free market. Well, unregulated free markets are bad for our planet. I would take that county and I would start to do things differently, not throw a bunch of windmills at it and say, well, this county's you're going to need one windmill per acre in order to fuel, say, this size town. Well, windmills, not a fan, but wind tunnels, can you take land that is already geographically suitable to a wind tunnel as opposed to a windmill? I've had this weird idea in my head about a wind tunnel that could also be used for the formation or reclamation of water from the atmosphere and surrounding terrain, funneled into a useful way. I imagine that once this gets kicked off, once there is healthy competition, free market competition not to control how much power is generated and the money from that, but a diversity in how you generate the power. Patents being issued for improvements on generating the power itself based on the region. We've got, I just saw this thing in Great Britain where they put up a bunch of windmills out in the ocean or at sea, and it was said that one spin of one windmill could power X number of houses for a day. But that's it. It's got this long string of windmills out in the sea, which is, good place to put them, I suppose. But there's no diversity to it. It's the wind blows or the wind doesn't blow. There are numerous devices that have already been invented that could be used alongside it. I saw this one. Don't know what it's called off the top of my head, but they set it up in a river. The water flows over it, down into it, spins a turbine, and just goes out the other side. Well, we have those in between the windmills. Okay, now we can power X amount of homes and commercial, industrial. We already have the power being generated, so there's already infrastructure getting the energy from there to where it's needed. Why not generate more? I imagine, one of the things, this is off the subject, but one of the things that always bugged me was they're talking about world population. If it's crowded where you live, move. It's like a child's answer because it's so short-sighted in that, okay, move, but if there's plenty of space for you out in Montana, but there isn't a whole lot of opportunity out in Montana that isn't already vigorously defended, shall we say. Not that I'm picking on Montana, because it's just an example that popped in my head, but I think that single, the turbines, the windmills out in the ocean, that single, I'm going to call it single-minded, but it just seems limited. I think that's a product of still industrial revolution thinking. It's not an organic thought. There's an available space to put these windmills, so we're going to put them there. Why not? They're going to kill fewer birds, and which is one of the vulnerabilities of windmills because people complain about the birds that get damaged. I imagine they're less of an eyesore. You could even do it artistically. I don't know if they have or not. I haven't seen it. But so that's another problem that gets me about how we're doing it industrially speaking. There's a lot less beauty to it. Instead, what we seem to be doing is ruining beauty by putting eyesores in. I think that once competition is really kicked off for this field, that we can start to appreciate it from a beauty perspective. We can, once we start to diversify it, not just windmill here, plop another one down here. Once we diversify it and shape the land to generate the energy, I think we could make it beautiful. If we put our mind, there's a lot of artistic talent in our species. I think we could make it beautiful. What I think is, and this may be going too far for this video, but what I think is, we live like morons. I think the very, very rich, the people who have everything they want, live like paupers would live on this planet if we as an ecosystem function properly. I think the quality of life, even for the very wealthy, would be very much higher. Certainly would be higher for the homeless and the poor, but I think it would be higher for the wealthy as well. I think that we accept what we have now. We brag and get arrogant about what we have now because we aren't visualizing what we really should be doing and what we could have. We don't know what we're missing because our focus is wrong. All right, so I'm coming up on 25 minutes into this. All right. Fallen world, explain that. What do I want to get this? Hope. There has to be hope here. If you think about what I'm proposing here, it's not an altogether change in the dynamic. It's more a bridge to being able to make the change. Because what our current system that is in place and failing us right now, that system isn't what people think it is. It is an ancient system. It's been around since our history begins. It's always been here. What countries like mine and the other superpowers in the world today are doing is taking that system. This is the furthest that system has ever gone. This is the most productive it's ever been. This is the most destructive it's ever been. This is the biggest. If you think about it, the combustion engine and how we thus decided to use fossil fuels could be considered one of the biggest cheats ever known. One of the biggest shortcuts ever known. Because all of this, all of the fossil, if you look at it from just my little corner of the world, I don't get to work an hour away from me. I don't get to have a job doing what I do. I don't get to be very specific, like I am this. There are jobs available for me an hour away, and I am willing to drive 2 hours a day to stay employed. You don't get that without that massive cheat that was fossil fuels. That human ability to see a resource, gather the resource, run that resource any way we can, especially when we make it profitable, and then discard what remains of it, which is a brief outline of what's wrong with what we're doing right now. I think it was a cheat. I think it was a very unfortunate path to follow because it was so easy. And its impact, generations later, is only just now being understood. And we're still doing it because we don't have an alternative to it. The politician can't ask a guy like me to give up my job an hour away because they want me to have that job. They want me to pay taxes. They want me to be a productive member of society. They want me to be able to go to the store and buy what I want because that's how our society works. It was a cheat. It was a very unfortunate discovery for us because I'm pretty sure we could have gotten here by now the green energy way. I think we could have gotten here, and I think the world would have been different as opposed to what we have now. But hey, there is hope. We've gotten here. We've got global telecommunications. We've got data being collected on everything and anything you could think of. If we want to figure out how it works, we have the data or can get the data. We have the ability for a dude like me to get a notion and tell everybody who is willing to watch it. I think we need to flip the dynamic. I think we need to have the masses farming the energy because it's the most. See, that's the problem. If you let this all go corporate, we've made plenty of movies about how this shit can go bad, right? How the corporate overlords can turn us all into serfs by whatever. This way we'd be serfs farming energy for them. But I think the United States, the American in me, says, if you did this and empowered the people who farm the energy for us. Common people like me, the little guys. If you made it so that, see, and what's wonderful about it is we're finally coming to a place now as a species where equality is becoming a cornerstone of our civilization. It no longer has to be guys who look like me, white male dudes. Anyway, white males who absolutely should get the power. It's going to be, if we did it now, it'll be all of us. Gender, race, F them. Doesn't matter. Never really did, but now we can say in stone, it is everybody. Diversify the hell out of this stuff. And when it comes to I don't know if the United States can do this. I think the United States 50 years could have done this. I don't know if we could do it now, but somebody out there can. Someplace, somewhere can. And if you do, I have a request. Document everything. Every problem, every cheat. I don't care if you slap some epoxy on it or use duct tape or came up with a new way to power or siphon power from turbines and streamline the process. Document everything. Get your patents if money is what's important to you, whatever. But get the information out there so that if somebody in my backyard figures it out, but somebody in Africa needs the freaking solution, we should have that solution. Why else did we build this society? We built a society that wants to share information. Share it. I have another request. I don't know that anybody will ever watch this, but if you are watching this, I'm going to assume the first response will be to tear it down. By all means, talk about how moronic I am, how bad a speaker I am, how stupid my ideas are. I'm fine with it. But also, find if there's something I've said here that you think you could prove right, please do that too. Somebody. All right. Imagine that though. Imagine the population of our planet. Imagine that what we farmed was not just industrial scale slaughterhouses and industrial scale farming. I mean, I've talked a lot about vertical farming, and I've talked a lot about it. The problem with vertical farming is in the vast majority of the world, there is a certain taste for food that's set in. And that taste is easier satisfied by turning the majority of the land surface into grain farming for slaughtering animals. I mean, that's just a fact. If you can change that, vertical farming will improve. The amount of vertical farming we do will grow. I would like to see if there was ever somebody taking this idea and making a county-sized project out of it. I would like to see that interspersed with vertical farms. I think you could build infrastructure that is both farming, residential, industrial, commercial, and built in such a way that it generates more energy. I think that will improve as this kicks off and there's more competition and there's more innovation, there's more creativity. But it also needs regulation, because to have billions of people farming energy is going to risk industrial waste. And I realize that the majority of my country does not like regulations. And they shouldn't either, because regulations have been just strangling. One of the reasons we don't have a lot of big projects like this is for do something called graph. Like, and I'm not picking on anybody here, but if I want to do a project, I have to pay off all these different people because their job only exists to get paid because I want to do something. That's their jobs. That's it. And if you're going to do this project and you're documenting everything, don't just document, oh, look, this is going online. Also document every cent of graph because that data is important. We need to know why, where, how much, all of that. If we're going to change that kind of system, we need to have that kind of detail. Don't, oh, well, Frank says he needs $10,000 to sign my permit. That is going into my documentation. That's not productive. That's petty. That's taking a high-minded idea and making it petty. We need the data. We don't need the snark. All right, so it's almost 40 minutes. I doubt anybody's going to watch that, but it had to be said. Thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed it.